Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 2, verse number 14. Yosau tvaya kara saroja hatapatango dikshu brahmam brahmata ye jayate kshini me muktam nate smarasi vakra jata virutham kashto nilo haratilam pataye shanivim. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. My mind is already restless, and by playing with a ball, moving it all about with your lotus-like palm, you are also agitating my eyes. Your curling black hair is now scattered, but you are not attentive to arranging it. Are you not going to arrange it? Like a man attached to women, the most cunning wind is trying to take off your lower garment. Are you not mindful of it? Purport. The girl, Purvachitti, was playing with a ball in her hand, and the ball seemed like nothing but another lotus flower captured by her lotus-like palm. Because of her movements, her hair was loose, and the belt holding her cloth was giving away, as if the cunning wind were trying to make her naked. Yet, she paid no attention to arranging her hair or fixing her dress. As Agnidra tried to see the girl's naked beauty, his eyes were very agitated by her movements. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport.
So we are seeing in this chapter activities of Maharaj Agnidra when he was doing his meditation to get a good wife and children. Lord Brahma, responding to his prayers, has sent Purvachitti. And Purvachitti has captivated his mind by her beauty and by her activities. And today's verse we see, he is admitting that Yosau tvaya kara saroja hatapatango dikshu brahman brahmatha ejayate akshini me. His mind is become brahmata, restless. And he is saying, and Purvachitti is playing with a patanga, a ball. Patanga can mean a butterfly, moth, and can also mean a ball, a playing ball. And here it is referring to, and by playing with a ball, hatappatango, and she has struck the ball, or striking the ball and moving. And Agnidra is looking at her palms, and he is seeing that it is so beautiful, like Karasaroja. So he is saying Karasaroja hatappatango tvaya. And because of this, Patanga Dikshu Brahman, with the ball she is moving around, moving about in different directions. So he is saying Brahmata, me Brahmata, I have become, my mind has become restless. And even Akshini, my eyes are also ejayate, disturbed because of this. And then he is also looking at her other various features. She seemed to have vakrajata. She seemed to have curling hairs. And vakrajata varutham, a bunch of them. And they have become muktam, they have become scattered. And natesmarasi, and you are not attentive to that. You are not paying attention to your vakrajata muktam, vakrajata varutham, muktam, they have become scattered. And next he is referring to kashta anilo harati lampata esha nivim. He's referring to her garment. Nivim means a skirt like thing. So, and that her garment, harati, anilo harati, like a wind which has trying to take off your lower garment, and like a lampata, like a man attached to a woman. Kashto anilo harati lampata esha nivi. And so, nate smarasi, and you are not paying attention to that. So my mind is already restless. Brahmata. And by playing with a ball, hatah patango, moving it all about, dikshu brahman, with your lotus-like palm, karasaroja hatah patango, you are also agitating my eyes. Ejayate akshini me. Agitating my mind, my eyes also. Your curling black hair, vakrajata, is now scattered, muktam. Vakrajata varutam, muktam. Your curling black hair is now scattered. But you are not attentive to arranging it. Nate smarasi. Like a man attached to a woman, lampata. The most cunning wind, kashto anilo, is trying to take off your lower garment. Nivim harati. Are you not mindful of it? Nate smarasi. So in this way, we can see Bhagavatam is describing what is going on in the mind of a man who is so agitated in the presence of a woman. So Agnidra's mind has become restless, as he is admitting. His eyes are agitated, and he is completely bewildered. So as spiritualists, it is important to control the mind. And so the Vedic literatures give different examples of how one has to be careful. There are many about the working of the mind. There are many analogies given in the Shastras. One interesting analogy which will help us to understand what is the nature of our mind. Krishna says, Yatha deepo nivathasto nengate sopama smrita. Here, Krishna is comparing the mind to be like a deepa, a lamp. And Srila Prabhupada explains, if you see a lamp, a little, you just disturb the air around it, the lamp gets disturbed. Isn't it? It's very sensitive. The lamp, the flame is very sensitive to the air around it. If air is agitated a little, in the same way our mind is like a flame. If there is a slight provocation, it can get agitated. And that is why what a yogi does is yatha dhipo nivathasto. Nivatha, vata is wind. Nivatha, there is no wind. Nivathasto, yatha dhipo nivathasto. Nengate sopama smrita. Na ingate, disturbed. So he tries to keep his mind in a windless place. So like a flame in a windless place. If there is no wind, the flame is not disturbed. So these are examples to tell us that how careful one has to be with one's mind. And if there is no control of the mind, there is no control of the senses. And if there is no control of the senses and the mind, then all kinds of activities we indulge in, there is no possibility of having spiritual consciousness. So all these are examples given in the Shastra. Like another example that the Upanishads give is Shurasya dhara nishita duratyaya durgam patastat kavayo vadanti. This is another example that is given. That the path of spiritual life, durgam patastat kavayo vadanti. Those kavi, transcendentalists who have traversed this path are warning that this path is duratyaya, is difficult to traverse. Kshurasya dhara nishitha. Kshurasya is a razor. Dhara is the edge of a razor. Nishita, the edge of a razor is very sharp. So when you are dealing with a sharp razor, sharp edge of a razor, you have to be very careful. Because we are dealing with mind. And the mind is like a flame. Even a little agitation, even a little disturbance, it can get agitated. So, these are examples given. And we see here, Agnidra, how? Because he has not been careful. Of course, his situation is different. He wanted to marry, he wanted to have a child, he wanted to have a good wife, and so on. And Krishna is fulfilling his desire through Lord Brahma and through Purva Chitti. So these are warnings given in the Shastra. Because in our human life, we understand we have a serious purpose. Say for instance, there is a man, he meets with a motor accident and then he has head injury. It's quite common everywhere in the world. And sometimes when a man has a head injury, memory is lost. That's called amnesia. He'll be unconscious for a few days maybe, and then when he comes back to consciousness, he cannot recognize anybody. Right? His wife will come, his children will come. Who are you? He'll be asking. So, generally, doctors treat him for the physical bruises and such thing, and then they will send him home. And he'll be in his house, surrounded by intimate family members. His children, they all want to, Papa, they want. But he's thinking, who are these children? You see, his mother, father will come. Oh, my dear son, who are these old people? See, this is amnesia. He has an intimate relation with all of them. But he is suffering from amnesia. He's not able to remember anything. He cannot relate. This is actually the situation of all the living entities. As Prabhupada points out, every living entity has an intimate relationship with Krishna. These are some of the revelations of the Vedic literatures. Not just that we have a relation with God and we have to revive that relation. We are forgetful of that one and we have to revive it. The Shastras point out we all have an intimate relation with God. Very intimate. And human form of life gives an opportunity to revive that. Just imagine Krishna, who is the Supreme Lord, and we all have a very intimate relation with Him. And if we are forgetful of that, and we are using our intelligence to improve this life and this world and so many things, and not figuring out our intimate relation with the Lord, what a loss it is. So that is why, from the Vedic perspective, and very nicely as Srila Prabhupada explains, the Bhagavad Gita teaches the science of God and helps us to understand we have a relation with that God, and helps us to understand that relation, the science of relation with God. Who are we? Who is God? And what is our relation? And Bhagavatam is the next scripture which helps us to develop that intimate relationship, loving relationship. That's why Bhagavad Gita ends with Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. It ends with sharanam. That's one of the final instructions. Of course, it's not that prema is not there, bhakti is not there. Throughout there is. But Krishna brings to the point of surrender. Surrendering is a preliminary step of development of love. And that development of love is that loving relationship realization is what the Bhagavatam is about. There are many, many examples. The science of developing that one, the process of developing that one, that loving relationship. And it doesn't just end with loving relationship. First is relationship, from forgetfulness to awakening of the relationship, then the loving relationship. Then the Shastras point out, it is not just loving, but it is an ecstatic, intimate, loving relationship. It's an intense loving relationship. And that intense loving relationship brings every moment of ecstasy. And that is what Chaitanya Charitamrita teaches through the example, personal example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that is why Prabhupada said these three books are most important. And so wonderful, you see how Krishna made this happen through Srila Prabhupada. He gave us the Bhagavad Gita, he gave the Bhagavatam, nearly complete, up to the 10th canto, Krishna book, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that is why Prabhupada said these three books are sufficient for spiritual life and going back to Godhead. So, this is the purpose. This should be the dominant purpose in our life. Dominating in every moment of our life, in every situation of our life. Sometimes we will go through some difficulties in life. But Krishna says that if you want to become dear to me, how we should handle this? Modern days, we hear about emotional intelligence, how one should develop emotional intelligence. You will see how Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita that if we are focused on this mission, the real mission of life, that I must awaken my intimate, ecstatic, loving relation with the Supreme. Ecstatic means, it's the highest level of happiness. That's what happens in the spiritual world. Every living entity in the association of Krishna. In the 12th chapter, Krishna is saying, Samashatraucha mitrecha tathamanapamanayo shitoshna sukha dukkeshu samasanga vivarjitaha tulya ninda stutirmauni santushto yena kenachit aniketha sthiramathir bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Krishna is giving direction how we can, a person, an aspiring spiritualist can become dear to the Lord. Because that is our relationship. We are living in this world, not connected to God, we are thinking. While actually we are connected to God, we are maintained by God, we are dependent on God, we are part and parcel of God. This is our situation. But we are thinking we are not related to God. Just like a man in amnesia, wife, children, they are all providing him food and all the arrangements, they are all taking care of him. But he is thinking, what a relation I have with them. He is thinking like that. So, samashatraucha mitrecha, one who is equal to friends and enemies. Because the concept of friend, enemy, that comes out of material, on the material platform, this requires that one has to be on a spiritual Brahman platform. Understanding, I am not this body, I am a spirit soul. Tatha manapamanayo. Mana, respect. Apamana, disrespect. This becomes a big thing in a person's life. And when some mana comes, we are elated. When apamana comes, we get disappointed and pained, hurt. And then when we are hurt, our emotions are so disturbed. Sometimes devotees become disturbed and they give up spiritual life too. So, becoming indifferent. Samaha. Mana is also, apamana is all. Because my goal in life is I want to revive my loving, ecstatic, intimate relation with the Supreme Lord. That focus on that enables one to become sama, tata, mana, apamanayo. Shita ushna, sometimes very hot, sometimes cold, we go through in life. Sukha dukkha, sama sanga vivarjitaha, and being free from all this attachment. Tulya ninda stuthir mauni, ninda stuti tulya, being equipoised, not becoming disturbed. Ninda and stuti. Somebody may Ninda is defamation, may defame. Stuti, repute, may praise you. Ninda, tulya ninda, stutihi, mauni, being silent. Being silent means it is not just silent. If it is silent, why is Shukadeva Goswami speaking so much? He should be silent. Silent means don't speak nonsense. Here, Mauni, Mauna refers silent in words and also silent in behavior. Just absorbed in the service to the Lord. Brings a certain kind of a gravity in one's disposition. Brings a certain kind of a grave, being very grave in one's mind, in one's behavior. Not frivolous. We are in a serious business in this world. Prabhupada talked about, I mentioned this sometimes in the classes. Prabhupada talks about, of course, talks about many things which are important in spiritual life, but easy to remember a 3S formula. Prabhupada says we have to be very sincere in spiritual life. Prabhupada says we have to be very serious in spiritual life. And Prabhupada says we have to be very strict in spiritual life. A lot of instructions about sincerity, about seriousness, about being strict. So, you can remember 3S formula of spiritual life. So, a devotee is very serious in his life. That gravity, that seriousness is Tulya ninda stuthir mauni. Santushto yena kenachita. In whatever situation Krishna puts him in, he is santushtaha. Very satisfied, very happy. And aniketaha. Niketa, niketana means a house. Aniketaha means he is not attached to a certain place of dwelling. Any situation Krishna puts him in, he is santushtaha yena kenachita. Aniketaha sthiramathir. And his consciousness is very fixed. Bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Such a bhaktiman naraha me priyaha. He becomes dear to me. So you can see from this, who has these qualities, who is practicing these qualities, will display very high level of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence meaning ability to not get disturbed in different situations that a person may go through. And none of these things will disturb. Like sometimes somebody is hurt or something like that, they become depressed. Or some relationship, some problem, they become depressed. They can't meet anyone, they'll just lock up in the room and different things like that. So, a devotee has all of these wonderful qualities. That is why Srila Prabhupada points out, we are trying to solve so many problems in this world, this problem. But there is one solution, you do that, all problems become they will just vanish. And that is to get connected with Krishna. Very, very unusual approach to problem solving through spiritual solutions. What the Vedic literatures point. So, in this way, if a devotee is focused on these things, Tulya ninda stuthir mauni, santushto yena kenachita, not being carried away. Sometimes in the association of devotees in the community, there also we become very conscious. I am a senior devotee, I should be respected by others, and if there is no respect, I become disturbed. If a devotee is focused that my life, mission in my life is that I must revive my loving, ecstatic, intimate relation with the Lord. Because that is the qualification to go back to the spiritual world. If we are focused on that, then these disturbances, let it come. It's okay, I'll deal with it. Tulya ninda stuthir mauni santushto yena kenachita. So these are all wonderful instructions of Krishna, and which are very relevant for us in our spiritual life. And when we practice spiritual life like that, then we become very strong. Spiritual strength we will have. In fact, all the austerity, tapasya, is meant for spiritual strength. And Krishna explains in the Gita, one of the tapasya of the body is brahmacharya. Remember that we were chanting that a few months back, I think, in the 17th chapter. Krishna talks about the various austerities, austerity of the mind, austerity of the, here it is. The austerity of the body consists in this: worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother. Deva Dvija Guru Pragna, Pujanam, Shauchamarjavam. Cleanliness, Shauchanam, Arjavam, simplicity, Brahmacharyam, celibacy, and Ahimsa cha Shariram, Shariram Tapauchyate. So, Brahmacharya, I remember once some years ago, one Madhva scholar wrote a letter to me. I think it was a letter not to me, it was a letter to the temple. And it came to me. And then he seemed to have come across Prabhupada's book. And then he was writing that I see in your books, Prabhupada is saying that a grahastha, he should have sex only for procreation and not otherwise. So then he was saying that we have seen in Dharma, no Dharma Shastra mentions this or something like that. He was referring to something. Whereas Srila Prabhupada made that as a principle. Generally, even in the Gaudiya Math, Matha was meant for brahmacharis and sannyasis. That was the general pattern. And when Srila Prabhupada set up Krishna consciousness all over the world, he did not want only, he wanted to give opportunity to women too. And so he encouraged his devotees to get married, but he put this stricture and he used a very interesting word, Grihastha Brahmachari. Prabhupada said there are two kinds of brahmacharis, Naishtika Brahmachari and Grihastha Brahmachari. One may be a Grihastha, but Shariram Tapa Uchyate, that Tapa Sharira Tapa does not stop. There is celibacy there too. For the sake of having children, one can engage in sex with one's wife. Otherwise, celibacy, brahmacharyam. Those days, early days, Srila Prabhupada was preparing, he had a few disciples. Although Prabhupada came to New York, 1965, but Prabhupada, a large portion of his life was, he had seen the British India under the rule of the Britishers. And at that time, everyone aspired to go to London because London was an important city. and they were ruling us. And all the officers, big officers in the country were coming from there. So generally, Indians would go to London. Gandhiji went to London for learning law. Jawaharlal Nehru went there. Motilal Nehru had sent his son there. So by and large, a lot of Indians would go. So London was considered to be an important place. Of course it was. But somehow Srila Prabhupada always thought I should go to New York instead of going to London. But even when he went to New York and he started the Krishna consciousness movement, his mind was still there, London. His godbrothers had gone to London. From the Gaudiya Mutt, some sannyasis were sent to London. They were sent to London, they were being paid money, arrangements were made, but they didn't do much and they were called back by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So when Prabhupada wanted London, next he wanted Krishna consciousness to be established. He had only a few disciples and he had 3 grihasthas. And he was preparing them, sending them to London. So he was thinking, my godbrothers who are sannyasis, who are born in India, very highly educated in the Shastra, they could not accomplish. What will these, my young American disciples do? They are all married. And one of them had just a baby. But they were so devoted to Prabhupada. They didn't have a house, they didn't care for anything, they just wanted Krishna. Swamiji has told us about Krishna. This was the power of Srila Prabhupada. How he could inspire them. And those 3 couples with a small child, they went to London trying to find a place. And Prabhupada would constantly be in touch with them. And Prabhupada would be saying, please make these arrangements, I'll come there. He wanted to go to London too. And so, at that time they were struggling, no money. Now you see how we are. Suppose you have to go somewhere. Immediately temple arranges for your ticket, travel. Now devotees even fly so frequently. Things like that. Those days, Prabhupada would ask some devotee, why don't you come to India? And the devotee will become thrilled. But then, who will give the flight ticket? They have to figure out. Prabhupada told me to come to India, come to the festival, Mayapur festival, I'll be there. They'll be thrilled. They can't go and ask temple president, please, where is the money? I don't have money. One Mataji says, Prabhupada told few devotees, you should all come. I'll be in London, I'll be in Mayapur. And then they were all thrilled. Prabhupada has invited us to come to Mayapur. Then she started making different kinds of sweet balls. And she started selling them. By making sweet balls, selling balls, collecting money, she got enough money to go to India. See, that was the situation. Temple, institution could not afford all this. Devotees had to work hard. Now, of course, Srila Prabhupada's mercy, the institutions have evolved. Our temples have evolved. There is a much formal structure, reputation, all that given by Srila Prabhupada. So like that, when the devotees went there, they were going through such hardships. And then Prabhupada made a remark, my grihasthas are better than sannyasis. They have no home. They have no other life, just serving Krishna. So, Prabhupada infused a certain kind of an intense spirit of serving and surrender. And he said, even if one is a grihastha, if that spirit of surrender and serving the spiritual master's mission is there, he may be a grihastha, he is a brahmachari grihastha. Householder, brahmachari. Very unusual combination, in one sense. But the principle is, it's not that it is not there in the Vedic literatures. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. Krishna is saying this. Balam balavatam asmi ragat ragadvesha vivarjito dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha. Kama, dharma viruddha kamaha. Sex relation which is not contrary to the principles of dharma. And what is dharma ultimately? Dharma is relationship, reviving our relationship with Krishna. That is the dharma. Dharma means constitutional position. Dharma of water is to be liquid. You make it ice, it will try to become liquid. That is the nature of the water. In the same way, what is the dharma of the living entity? Dharma of the living entity, the constitutional position of the living entity is to be a servant of Krishna. Intimate, loving, ecstatic servant of Krishna. And we want to revive that. If that spirit is intensely in one's life, that will naturally bring about brahmacharya in every situation of life. So, and if we have to do that, we have to be careful how we deal with our mind, with our senses, and all of these instructions in the Vedic literatures are to help us deal with these things so that we remain focused in our life. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.